Welcome back to the After Hours podcast. I'm your host, Francisco. Co-host today, I have Joey, and we are joined with John and Tess from Carousel Bar out in New Zealand. What is going on, guys?
Well, it's a Wednesday here, and we're just doing some day work. We're not open till tomorrow, Thursday night. So just admin and getting through the year, relatively unaffected at the moment with the COVID situation, obviously. But yeah.
So, what is the COVID situation in New Zealand?
Well, we have sort of started off with, we're trying to eradicate effectively. So there's very few cases. I think yesterday we had 4 cases in the community and another 48 in isolation. That's people coming back into the country who have to go into isolation and are tested, etc. So it's, I think the 4 we have in the community at the moment have been people that have caught through working in those facilities or close contacts of. So they just pick them up or hopefully pick them up, and then they trace their contacts. So it's,
For everyday people, though, we're pretty much back to normal.
Totally.
With regards to, what we can and can't do. We have a level system, level 4 being complete lockdown, and at the moment we're in level 1. Touch wood, we stay that way for a while.
Cool. Yeah. I mean, the U.S. has been getting some heat lately for our protocols that we've had in place. And obviously we didn't do a very great job of lockdown in early March. So we're still feeling it pretty hard. I mean, there's still millions of cases here.
Yeah. In fact, you're exceeding. You've been doing very well the last 4 or 5 days. New records.
New records, not quite in the right direction.
Yeah.
So most of our states, I believe, bars close down somewhere between 11 and 12. What time are you guys able to stay open till?
Do you mean ordinarily or due to COVID?
Like due to COVID.
We have no restrictions on us due to COVID. We just have licensing restrictions.
Cool. So normally, like without COVID, how late are you guys open till?
It's not New Zealand wide. They introduced something called local alcohol policies. So it's by region, and we can go to 3, but we have a one-way door imposed on us at 2:30. Prior to that, we used to be able to go to 4, and prior to that, when we started, we were 24 hours 7.
Wow.
So, but you'd only go for as long as it's worth your while, and depending on intox, etc.
That's wild. I mean, here it's always been 2 a.m. is the closing time for pretty much every bar, unless you're in like Las Vegas. But yeah.
What about? Do you have clubs? Do you have club licenses? Or?
Yeah. So some clubs they'll close the doors at 2, but if you're in at 2, you can stay till 3. But once 3 o'clock hits, like everybody is like out.
Yeah, that's very conservative. A bit like what's happened here, really.
And then something you mentioned earlier at the very beginning was that it's actually Wednesday for you guys. And that's a little bit different because here, obviously, we're still in Tuesday and it's 5 p.m. So you guys are 18 hours ahead of us. And I believe you guys are the first country to see the sunrise. So
we'll let you know if anything good comes up. Give you a heads up.
Yeah, what's the lottery numbers looking like tomorrow?
Any sharp bets or anything like that?
So how did you guys both get into the food and beverage industry?
I got in a random way, actually, sort of through a small cafe. Dunedin's like it's about 130,000 people in the wider area, and there's a university. But I got in through a small cafe, and that was in 95, 94. And then went from there to a nightclub. Basically, some people we knew that were starting a club. The guy had to buy out his business partner and hit me up about it because he knew me. They'd come down and have a few drinks at the place I had, which was a bar by then. And so I did a nightclub thing through the good years, which was through to about 2010. So our licensing then was a lot more free. So that was good, and that's really how I got into it. And then I had I knew that the lease was going to come to a close irrespective. So I started up Carousel as with an overlap. So we started in 2007, and the club closed in 2010. And Tess?
Very cool. Yeah, how about you, Tess?
Well, I've basically worked hospo my whole career. Had a few kids early on, and then just started doing hospo because it was easier to work at night when I had the kids home during the day. And basically, yeah, and then I met JD and started working up here about 5 years ago.
Very cool. Yeah. So what is your main role in the operations?
Well, basically operations manager, I would say, general manager, just the basic running of the actual bar.
Right on. Yeah, that's awesome.
I don't know anything about it whatsoever.
When you guys used to stay up till like 4 a.m. serving, how crowded was it in the bar? Like, did people actually stay like, pretty full capacity the entire night, or did it start to like, dwindle off?
We were 24 initially, so you might go through till even with the nightclub. I mean, you'd probably go through to about 6. But sometimes you'd call it early if it was too messy or it wasn't busy enough.
Mm-hmm.
But when we had 4 o'clock closing, we would be still mainly at capacity until close. We have a very low capacity though, so there's always lines of people trying to get in anyway.
Right. So what would you say is your favorite part about working in the food and beverage industry?
Just basically people for me, really. We have a really good core group of staff. We really get on really well, and just all of our customers. We never have any trouble up here, and it's just a really fun environment to be in.
Right. And how about you, John?
Yeah, there's an element of that. I mean, I'm not working the bar. I'm not as closely connected as say Tess, but we're still connected. So there's a social side of it. There's exposure to music and stuff like over the years, I suppose, that I wouldn't have got otherwise. So it keeps you a bit more current or younger, I guess. And of course, I don't have to pay for drinks.
Can't beat that.
Well, I don't have to pay for them twice, should I say, because I've already paid for them. That's what I always tell people.
So, what do both you guys? What do you think you would be doing if you weren't in the food and beverage industry?
I don't know what I'd be doing, to be honest.
I don't know either. I'd probably still be doing this, I would say, anyway, if I wasn't working here.
Right on. Yeah. What would you say are like the stereotypes of Americans? I don't know how many you get frequently, but is there any like stereotypes that have been manifested because of a certain way we act or what we drink at bars?
I don't know. Yeah, what do you think?
I think to us, Americans are always quite loud.
I was just going to say, is there a volume control on this?
Yeah. No, we do get a few Americans up here. Obviously, not at the moment. We have a lot of international students usually in Dunedin, so we do get a lot of international people up here. But yeah, I don't think we have any stereotypes really.
Oh, that's good to hear. I mean,
we are a little loud. I mean, I can see that one.
That's definitely
chatty,
true.
Let's just say chatty.
A lot of talk.
Are you guys more down to business? You're like, all right, I'll take my whiskey on the rocks and I'm here to drink. Is that how it is, or a little bit more?
It's just a cultural thing, really, as opposed to there's a lot of unsaid
in Kiwis. Yeah.
Cool.
They tend to be pretty understated. They don't really big themselves up or anything or talk themselves up at all. It's very understated.
Very cool. Very humbling too. I mean, kind of comparable to Canada. I've been to Canada a pretty good amount of times. Everyone there is just really humble, really nice, and they always make sure to say sorry and please. So yeah.
So, have you guys traveled a lot, like outside of New Zealand?
I did a little bit when I was younger. I went initially from here when I was quite young, 17, to Australia to work there for a while to save some money for my overseas trip, and then travelled a little bit around Southeast Asia, and then kind of ran out of money, so went to Europe to try and get a job there. I didn't have a British visa, so ended up in Amsterdam and scored a job there, so stayed there for about 18 months, and then spent a little bit of time in Israel and Egypt, and then back to Australia for me. John?
Wow.
Question.
Have you been overseas?
Oh, not much. I don't travel well. I've been I've been to Australia once. I only got a passport again recently. I hadn't had it for years. I did a crazy trip with family to Bosnia and a few other places like Rome in '96.
So how do you say Dunedin and New Zealand compares to Europe?
Dunedin.
Dunedin, that's my bad.
It's all right. Dunedin.
Dunedin.
Yeah, Dunedin. I think
Okay.
it's Scottish origin.
Very cool, yeah. Tess, you seem like a bit of an adventurer. What was your favorite stop along the way when you were traveling there for a while?
Definitely Amsterdam. My family is of Dutch heritage, so it was just really cool to go there. Because I was there for a decent amount of time, you know, you kind of get to know the place a little bit better than if you're just spending a few days here and there when you're traveling. So, Amsterdam was really cool. Oh, Israel was pretty amazing too. A bit of a culture shock from a young girl coming from a small town in Dunedin, going to the Middle East. So it was pretty cool.
What was the biggest revelations that you saw?
Initially, I would say my biggest memory was getting off the plane in Tel Aviv and jumping on a bus to go down to a southern city called Eilat, and just sitting next to a young 18-year-old, same age as me, who was carrying a machine gun, which was awfully bizarre because we don't see that sort of thing over here. None of our police even carry guns at the moment, so that was pretty out of it for me.
Wow.
Yeah, that's got to be a cultural shock, right? Like you're just riding next to somebody and they just have an AK or like an M16 or something.
I wouldn't know. It was just a big bloody gun.
Oh my gosh.
That's terrifying. When you were abroad, what were your favorite foods that you got to try?
Israel was great for like falafel. They do amazing like falafel salady sandwiches and things like that. Obviously, Thailand was amazing. I'm a big fan of Thai food. We don't have a lot of really good Thai food over here, so being able to go to Thailand and trying authentic Thai food was amazing. I'm big into spice, so it was perfect for me.
That's awesome. Heck yeah. And John, what was your favorite part about visiting Rome?
Oh, there was a few places. I did go to Amsterdam 3 times, managed to squeeze that in. But that just happened to be because we went early. But it was pretty bizarre because it was a family trip, and it was a trip to a place called Medjugorje. My family is quite right-wing, well, Catholic, and my uncle at the time, my uncle was shouting 30 of us over, big families. So that was quite bizarre in itself. So we'd stay in Rome and then go over to Medjugorje and Bosnia, etc. And that place was pretty bizarre, but it was definitely memorable, just because there's a lot of pilgrims that would go there, a lot of Irish, because Irish Catholic, etc. And we just went for the trip, really. But it was a bizarre place because you'd had all these Irish, and it's a touristy small area. But went to like places like Dubrovnik. When we were there, of course, it was not really that long after all the troubles. So you'd have peacekeeping forces, a couple like Western European Union and things like that still based there. And a lot of the rules around their building of houses, I think they were subsidised for first level, but not the second. So there was a lot of stuff that was just had one ground floor, and the rest of it was partly built, not finished. Very interesting.
That's awesome. You guys kind of mentioned some foods in other countries. What type of food, if we come to Dunedin, would we expect to get there?
It's not as diverse. It's like Dunedin's relatively small, so the bigger centres in New Zealand, you'd have more diversity. But here you've got plenty of Asian, like Japanese or Japanese run by Korean eateries. You've got some brasserie type places. There's a bit of everything really. There's a lot of franchisee type places as well. But there's always the odd good owner operator driven place that's just fresh, local, etc., etc.
And being off the coast, you guys have a lot of seafood as well.
You'd think that should be the case, wouldn't you? But it's relatively expensive.
Really?
Yeah.
Food in New Zealand is expensive, full stop. Even though we produce a lot of it ourselves, most of it gets, all of the good quality produce and things like that get exported overseas, and we kind of get left with not the shit, but the dregs maybe.
Well, more that you're competing with that market. So that, like, there's a lot of the great fish around here is blue cod, and that's now up near
50
a kilo, 50 New Zealand dollars a kilo.
Wow. That is,
and it was about 40 a year and a half ago, and so that's still expensive.
There is a few good seafood restaurants around, but you would be expecting more being so coastal.
You can't buy trout, etc. That's one thing I noticed that in some places in Europe you could. Here you can go fish for it if you've got a license and you can eat it, but you can't sell it or buy it.
Yeah, that's interesting. Very counterintuitive to what you'd think being like a island nation. You know, I'd assume like a lot of seafood and a lot of fish.
Yeah, you'd think that, wouldn't you? Unfortunately, it's the supermarkets that have the control, and for a lot of people, especially on less money, it's cheaper for them to not eat healthy. You know, it's cheaper food. It's just buying fresh vegetables, etc., is a more expensive option.
Right. Yeah, that's a pretty big problem in the U.S. I remember we had a foreign exchange student when I was in high school, and she came over from Switzerland, and she's like, the prices for like fresh produce are outrageous here compared to what you can get in Europe, just because everything was so marked up. And she said in Europe, the cheapest things you can get are going to like a local market or like an outdoors farmers market. And that was like the cheapest you could get. And over there, like fast food was really priced up. So it's very different everywhere.
Yeah, I think we're probably not quite at the level you guys are, but it's still the same. And farmers markets, these are people who are trying to make living. They're still going to peg off the supermarket price to some degree.
Mm-hmm.
So is there taxation that's heavily implied to like all drinks that are served at your bar?
The biggest form of taxation is the taxation on the liquor at source. So that we've got regular excise tax increases. I think 1st of July every year, and so the cost of especially spirits is. There's also been other government things like trying to control ready to drink RTDs. And the pricing of such, all the alcohol content through legislation over the last sort of 10, 15 years, 20 years. But mainly what we have here as far as taxation goes is we've got personal income tax and we have GST, which is like VAT or whatever, which is 15%. And certain things apply to it and certain things don't, like wages don't, obviously, because you're not paying it on it. So it's that, and PAYE for employment of individuals, so pay as you earn. So that's employment tax that you've deducted off other people when you've paid them at source.
Mm-hmm.
And then your income tax for the company or yourself as an individual, depending on how it's split.
So if an individual of Dunedin, is that how I say it?
Dunedin.
Yeah.
Dunedin.
So yes. So if I'm a resident and I want to go purchase alcohol, can I do it at like any gas station or any market, or is it
No,
government regulated
no,
as
that's
to
sort of
which
changed
stores can
quite a
sell?
bit. The basically with the supermarket, you can go to the supermarket and you can buy wine, and you can buy. Can you buy cider?
You can buy wine, beer, and cider.
Wine, beer, and cider.
Yep.
But if you want to buy spirits, you have to go to a bottle store, kind of. But then you can buy it online and have it delivered. And in some areas of the country, we have licensing trusts where they pretty much are the only they're the only party in town. You can trade against them or within those areas to some degree, but you have to prove a certain percentage of food, etc. So we're not in a licensing trust, but there are a number of them in New Zealand. But yeah, so as far as mostly people would go to buy spirits, they'd have to go to a bottle store,
like an off license.
An off license.
Right.
And a lot of the places that were what we'd say convenience stores are now being denied licenses because they're a convenience store. There's somehow they're not within the rules anymore. So they've just increasingly come down on it in a lot of different ways to try and reduce alcohol related harm. So the main purpose of the Sale and Supply of Alcohol Act in New Zealand is to reduce alcohol related harm. That's the prime objective, which is not overly balanced, but that's the way it is.
That makes sense. That's pretty similar to how we operate here in Ohio. If you go to your local convenience store, you can only get a beer and wine, and anything under, I believe, 17.5%, you can get at like any store, and then you have to go to a specific store with a liquor license to get anything over that. However, it does vary from like state to state. In our home state of Michigan, you can go to a convenience store at 3 a.m. and pick up a bottle of whatever you want.
Yeah.
So it really depends on what state we're in.
You can run by a
here.
7-Eleven at like 2 a.m. and they'll serve you pretty much anything.
Yep.
Yeah,
I was going to say, it sounds more...
It wouldn't be open. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Sorry.
What did you say? Oh, no, I was going to let you go.
Yeah, what else around that? There's... we're 18 years here as well.
18?
Oh, okay.
Yeah, that's pretty cool.
Yeah, so we that changed. It was 20 and it went to 18 many, many years ago, probably late 90s, was it?
Yeah.
About 2000. And that, but what happened in the north, around the university area, a lot of the bars became unprofitable, the ones that were catering to especially the students with low margins. And they would price war and do all sorts of things. And of course, rules have changed and most of them have gone. The university has a lot of clout and actually bought a lot of them out and took the land and property. So now students, I've got kids at varsity and stuff, and they just party down there in the university area at flats and stuff. So and effectively, they've just we're a supervised environment and we can keep control of behaviour within it. But the way it is now is there's really nothing controlling anything. Or they have street parties, and it's a big thing here to burn couches. And then you have the couch and you set it on fire. They've done it for years, and it's become where what they know as a rite of passage is not to do with going to these bars that used to exist and are now long gone. It's all about they have red cards where they've got to go and drink and do these games and stuff. I presume.
Yeah, a lot of them still do come into the city, but they're not known as big spenders. To be fair, there's a lot of preloading that they do before they come into town. We also have restrictions on how much we can discount alcohol, so it's usually quite an expensive exercise for anyone to have a night drinking. So yeah, preloading is a bit of an issue because you get, you let someone in who presents fine but have sculled 2 bottles of wine in the alleyway 20 minutes ago, and then next minute are really drunk and don't spend any money.
And we can get a lot of attention from police or other agencies related to liquor. that will very quickly take you to court.
So, do you guys notice a big difference in behavior from people that are like 18 to 21 and then the 21 plus area?
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, definitely. You find that if you have a night where, you have a lot of young people up here, it's definitely a lot more work for everyone, bar staff, duty managers. It's definitely a lot messier. They're not as respectful, and you don't get a very good bar spend, as opposed to having a night where you've, say, got, mid to late 20s, early 30s. They tend to be able to hold their alcohol a lot better, and they tend to spend more money.
Yeah. I mean, that all makes sense. I mean, drinking at age 18, in my opinion, is a little young. I mean, here it's 21, and
So
I don't know.
My only argument to that would be you would think that since they started drinking younger, they'd be able to like hold themselves at a younger age than where if you start at like 21. But
we have a really
I don't
bad
know.
binge drinking culture in New Zealand.
We do, but at the same time, if you look back, people are drinking better and drinking less by a huge amount compared to what it was like here. So it has improved heaps. Also, it's sort of, I listen to some of your podcasts, and it's different here as far as it's just the demographic we've got. So you've got a lot of people of student age, and then we have got some tech sectors and stuff for people to stay around for. But a lot of people traditionally would leave and then come back maybe to have family, if at all. But now we've got a lot of people returning because of COVID. And we've had 71,000 people come through since the end of March into New Zealand.
Returning Kiwis.
And their partners, yeah. So, but we'd be seen in the local market as probably the premium cocktail bar. So
Absolutely.
So, but if you were somewhere else, you probably wouldn't have to. You could probably be more selective as to who you let in. Whereas here we're just going, okay, unless they look real bad, they're not in tox, their age, we've checked them. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
It's a different population size as well.
You mentioned, or Tess had mentioned preloading. I assume that's pretty similar to what we call pre-gaming here, where you go out and drink before you go to a bar because you try to get like a little bit drunk and then you don't have to spend as much at the bar. Is that common for people to do like outside of establishments? Like what are the regulations beyond
outside? If you do it outside of the establishment, it's called side loading. That's what the police call it. So you go to the car park or you go to your car and it's handy. And then you drink, and then you come back, and that's side loading. But preloading, I mean, yes, it is common, but I did that when I was a kid. I mean, you have a limited budget.
It's nothing new.
It's just a matter of, it's nothing new. It's just that I think over the years that people in that demographic or students even have had a lot more money to spend than when I was young. Mm-hmm. A lot more disposable income.
So what are the like on-street like restrictions? Because here we only have specific like streets in each city, if any streets at all, where we can have like open alcohol containers. Is it the same there?
Yeah. That's right. They have the whole the authorities communicate around the world. Mm-hmm. They know the tricks for every single place, and what's going to be of use to them. The same with health. So there's a what do they call it, a liquor ban in the centre city, but it's only as good as it can be enforced. So you often find them just where people are putting bottles down as they're coming into that area if they're concerned. But we catch people bringing stuff in here, and they'll openly have it on a table.
Wow,
that's ludicrous. What?
Hello.
That's crazy. That's just like disrespectful at that point. Like what?
That's right. They've got nothing to lose. All that's going to happen is they're going to get booted out.
Right. Shit. And those type of people, are you hesitant to let them back in?
Yes.
Yes. Oh, yes, if you know who they are.
Okay.
But how much effort are you going to go to? And what about?
Yeah, I mean, if there's so many people coming in and out, I could see it. It could be really hard to be like, oh, this person, brought a bottle in 6 weeks ago.
That's right. And the different door person or whatever. We employ our door staff directly as opposed to using a firm, just because we tend to get a better service that way.
So if we were coming to Dunedin, what type of drinks could we expect to get, or what type of drink would you recommend?
For at Carousel?
At Carousel or the New Zealand as a whole?
Okay, let's run that back. If we were to come to Carousel, what would you recommend?
Yes.
I would definitely recommend our espresso martini. We have a great range of our take on classic cocktails at the moment as well. But yeah, definitely our espresso martini is probably what we're known for in Dunedin.
That sounds delicious. Heck yeah.
We use cold brew.
Coffee.
Cold brew, okay.
I've never heard of that.
We just
anywhere
couldn't
around here.
the volumes. We couldn't do it with making coffee at the time, and
Right.
And we use Mr. Black,
which is a coffee
Coffee
liqueur
liqueur.
from Australia.
is it Australian?
Yeah.
It's cool.
Mm.
It's higher alcohol. But we don't have we have an arrangement with a liquor company for stuff in the well, but we don't have any restrictions. I've never allowed any, so we can do whatever we want with spirits. So we have quite a good back bar. People here don't even know what like Don Julio is.
Really?
No, I mean I have it sitting up there. I've had it up there for years and years and years, and occasionally someone goes, "Oh wow," but they don't know.
Well, if we come here, I'll make sure or if we come to Dunedin, we'll make sure to get a shot of it. It's definitely if you go to like a bigger city, about 2 hours away is Cleveland, and like in the decent size cities here, it's pretty standard like drink to order.
I was going to say at most bars you'll see it.
Yeah.
Yeah, and buying, I see people like that. Where you get a special area VIP in the club and included a bottle of
Yep, Don Julio is one of the ones that's known for that as well here.
Yeah, we have a lot of with the gin resurgence. There's a lot of New Zealand companies that are coming out with really interesting stuff, using a lot of botanicals or stuff from the coast that are peculiar to New Zealand. So there's quite a lot of interesting things going on there, and some great Australian companies.
Craft beer has really taken off in New Zealand
huge.
over the past, decade?
Yeah.
We have some really great craft beer breweries popping up around the country now, which is awesome. Kiwis tend to be quite into their craft beers, and also some great New Zealand wines, Central Otago, Pinot Noirs, and Marlborough Sauvignon Blancs.
We're close to Central Otago. We're Otago, so Central Otago's very close to us.
What type of beers could we expect on tap?
Emerson's is a local brewery that we always have. We don't have a huge range here because we're a cocktail bar. We're not a tavern. We have far higher sales of spirit-based stuff. So there's no point in we don't have a cool room. We just have an ice bank. There's no point in having lots of tap beer on. But we have Panhead, which is
an Auckland brewery.
Yeah, they're both these breweries have been bought out by majors. And we have Asahi, which is just whatever.
So we usually will have a local Pilsner, Dunedin brewery called Emerson's, a Pilsner. We'll have a cider. We'll have a pale ale. And then we'll just have your stock standard lager, which at the moment is Asahi.
And then we'll have plenty of stuff in the fridge. Sour. Nice. We love sours.
Yeah, sours have been on the rise lately. I feel like everyone's been jamming with those.
Yeah. There's a great one. There's a great one in Kapiti called North End, and we love the Become the Ocean, which is a goes, but it's briny, salty. It's real nice.
What was it? North End?
North End. They're awesome.
Okay. Look that up real quick, Joey. About to get some of that on Amazon.
I don't think so. A drone coming in your window.
I wanted to ask, is there like a defining difference between pub, tavern, and bar in New Zealand? Here they get used pretty interchangeably, I would say.
The same here, but the way people treat them is going to be different. So we're on the first floor, and of a building. So we have an outdoor area on the same floor, which is unusual, which is great, about 6 by 9 meters, and we can, people can dance out there if they want. It's partly covered, but if we were on a ground level, we could behave more as a tavern. We could probably be open more days, depending on how good you are. I think more. We've increased our food options, but if we were more of a food primary place, it would be completely different. But we just have to. I think it's best to decide what your strength is and stick with it. And to be fair, given the market we're in here, we do have the luxury, I suppose, if we can make our money in 2 or 3 days or 2 days, that's great.
So you guys only open Thursday through Sunday then?
Yeah, we did used to open Tuesday, Wednesday. Town hasn't, Dunedin, City, has not really recovered from COVID as far as people's patterns of behaviour go. So at the moment we're doing the Thursday, but it's pretty meh. We're really hoping that it'll pick up a bit as we're coming into festive season. And of course here the weather's getting warmer. So people, and the light, we get light till, at the longest day it would be about 9:30 p.m.
Mm-hmm.
It'll stay light till. So people tend to behave differently and stay and go out as opposed to winter.
I miss those days.
I was gonna say before we even started this podcast, it had gotten dark here at like 4:45.
Yeah,
yeah, that's about us in the middle of winter, 4:30 to 4:45. But here, because you're quite southern, it slowly goes dark. Whereas if you were up in the northern part of the country, dark way quicker.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, it's also because we are on the opposite side of the hemisphere. We're on the northern half. And so, yeah, obviously our winters are your summers are our winters. And we also experienced daylight savings time, which was 2 weekends ago, which means we lose an hour. So
yeah, we had the opposite.
Really? Okay.
And your water goes down the sink the other way.
So yeah, it's been getting dark at like 4:00, whereas a month and a half ago it was getting dark at 7. So it's not great. Where did the name Carousel Bar originate from?
I just came up with it. It's it's true. I wanted something that was sort of evocative of Dunedin. It's not like a super lucrative market. So if you fit something out, and this was a fit out, and it was also a building that was previously a restaurant, so it hadn't been a bar, so there's more money involved. You've got to build it to last. So we opened in 2007, and we don't need to refit at all. We built it pretty well, but so basically Carousel was something that was more evocative of 30s French style, timeless, etc. Doesn't really matter. You also got to think of what they're going to call you as a nickname.
Which is just Caro.
Yeah, we don't have a bad one. Yeah,
that's a pretty good nickname though. I mean, I feel like a lot of top end bars have like 3 to 4, letter like nicknames. So
yeah.
I
actually never thought about it. You don't think? Yeah, I really can't think of that many that are like really prestigious that have like an extremely long name.
Yeah,
most of them are pretty short
acronyms.
Yeah.
So if we were in Dunedin and we were going to another bar besides Carousel, what would you guys recommend?
Below us, just right as we have a lot of bars that are our mates, or bars that we'd go to ourselves. But there's a place below us called Albar, Albar. It's a Scottish word. The guy's Scottish, the woman's Kiwi, and they're a tavern. So they've got lots of Emersons on tap. They're open 7 days. They're like a
locals bar.
A locals bar, yeah. Where else do we go?
We have another couple of cocktail bars that we will go to. There's a little lounge bar not too far away from here called Pequeno, which we would go to. And there's also a new one that's opened a few months ago, just before lockdown actually, called Mr. Fox, actually. Mr. Fox. It's another same sort of deal as Carousel, just loungy cocktail bars. Apart from that, most of the other bars in town have sort of larger student-orientated bars. And I suppose because we're slightly older now, we stick to the more
Toast, another one.
Loungy. Toast as well. Toast is another cocktail bar in town.
They all tend to be people that we know or are friends, and most of them have nicked our staff.
So you guys are pretty close with most of the other bar owners and tavern owners in
The
town?
ones that we identify with.
Yeah, definitely. We have a really good relationship with, most of the other bars in town, to be fair.
Yeah, totally. But we're not there'll be suburban ones that we don't even know the people,
Most of Dunedin
in this area. We're in the centre of right in the centre of town. So there's
most other bars are too.
Yeah, a lot of the bars are now clustered around here, which is good, but it could used to get pretty messy at night on the streets, but that's a policing issue in my opinion.
Mm-hmm.
So bringing it back a little bit, you guys are talking about food. What type of food is offered at Carousel?
So we used to just have a bar snack menu. Legally, we have to supply food at all times. 3 different types of food options need to be available. So initially, we just had things like fries and dumplings and bread and dips and things like that. But we've recently just put in sort of a new tapas menu, which is just sort of, small plates designed to be shared, which is available sort of in the early market. So from when we open till about 9 o'clock. Which is something that we've just launched and is just starting to.
We've done it over the last couple of months.
Yeah, starting to take hold now. But yeah, like I said, we.
So they want.
So sort of things at the moment we do. We actually do a poutine and a chicken liver pate and meatballs and guacamole and corn chips, a local cheese platter and things like that. And then of course just your standard late night deep fried options.
Nice. Sounds delicious. What is on the poutine?
So we have a house-made gravy, and we use Evansdale, which is a local cheese making company, curds.
So we use proper curds.
Oh, man, I'm so jealous. That's like the one thing in the U.S. that isn't very popular. And you think it would be, right? You got your cheese, you got your carbs, and you got your gravy. It's like
it's probably one of the most popular dishes that we serve here, to be fair.
There's certain areas where it's okay, but I haven't really had one that like blew me away.
Yeah. I think you've just got to look at what you can get ingredient wise that's gonna and spend time developing the recipe. And there was a lot of time in it. And we also, because we were low risk, we had to put a food control plan in. We used to do one, but because we didn't do that much, we didn't have to, so we had to redo all that, especially around chicken livers. But yeah, there are rules around licensing as to you have to have so many food options. They have to be affordable. They have to be readily available, designed as single serve. So a cheese platter, no, that doesn't count. That's for sharing and things like that. So we did this voluntarily to try and
increase our
early market after our small lockdown, and we were paid out sort of a subsidy type thing, wage subsidy. So that took a lot of pressure off, and we thought, well, let's try and do something to increase the food. So we had our relicensing meeting. Was it this week?
Last week.
And the authorities, they come in and sit down at the bar, etc., and have a wee chat. So we have a bit like so we can.
So the authorities take it pretty seriously.
What was it? Sorry.
So authorities take it like pretty serious there in terms of like regulations and making sure you're meeting the rules.
Very, very seriously.
Yes, they can. Okay. If they want to, they could be annoying because if they want to target you, they just target the hell out of you.
I feel like that's not the case here. I feel like you just have like a food inspector that comes in once a year and it's like, yep, they're good to go.
As long as you don't have cockroaches in your in the back of your bar, you're pretty much
not thinking really about environmental health so much. That they might come through once a year and ask undercover to see if you've got food available. I mean, if police want to have an issue with you or licensing.
Very strange. What are the busiest holidays for you guys?
Holidays? Busiest?
It's
A lot of the days we won't be able to, depending, we have days we can't open.
Okay.
So like over Easter, we have a good chunk of time off. There's a lot of days that we aren't allowed to open. We can't open on Good Friday or Easter Sunday.
Or we can't open until midnight, and there's no point because no one's going to be out.
Yeah.
So
Christmas is a different one over here because a lot of people tend to go away.
Yeah.
So
we're not a destination.
And students obviously finish up their course about now. So, and then they tend to go home because a lot of them are from out of town. So even though you'd think, the Christmas holiday period would be a busy one, it tends to be
we're better off
kind of average.
We're better off in the middle of winter.
Okay.
That's very strange. Usually holidays here means you're getting packed. Like your business.
It doesn't mean that at all here. In fact, it means, like we look at the timing of New Year's Eve or Christmas Eve and New Year's Eve, and we're going to probably shut for a week this year, eh?
Yeah.
Because of the way that the days fall, and it's just not worth being open. And then even in winter, we've got ski fields and that aren't that far away, so you do lose people to that as well. Although the winters are getting warmer and warmer and suffering. But yeah, no, holidays, we don't think like that.
Obviously, more tourist spots like Queenstown and things like that, they would definitely see surges in.
If they were allowed any tourists.
If they were allowed tourists.
At the moment, there's been big pushes for domestic tourism where they've encouraged or heavily promoted for people to go and especially places like Queenstown, which is a ski resort, international resort, have been very badly affected by this because, all of a sudden they're just dead and they're used to being busy 6 to 7 nights a week. Their shoulder seasons pretty much had disappeared over the years and they were just super busy and their rents are based on that. So then you have nobody. And the local market is very small and they've lost all their international market, which is still the case. And their domestic tourism has helped to some degree, but probably just on weekends.
Kiwis have been very good at getting out there and supporting local, though. Can't do anything else at the moment, I suppose.
Well, and they've had money. They want to go somewhere and do something, spend it on something.
So I've heard there's a lot of good parks in New Zealand. Have you guys been like throughout the whole country and seen a lot of those?
We're actually pretty bad at traveling, aren't we?
Yeah, I don't travel well.
Yeah. Kiwis generally are pretty bad at traveling in their own country. There is a lot of national parks and things like that. If we go anywhere, we usually would go through to Queenstown for gigs. But obviously, running a bar when your weekends are your busiest time, it is quite hard to get away.
But it is probably they were getting a lot of the walks, the popular walks through the tracks and stuff, were getting super busy, weren't they?
Yeah,
like overly busy. And that was becoming an issue. And there was even taxes for bed tax or people coming into the country that brought stuff in, and it was becoming overly busy at a lot of places. But that won't be the issue at the moment.
So kind of throwing this back a little bit, I'm looking at your guys' Facebook page, and you have a lot of very creative cocktails. What is the inspiration behind a lot of those?
Just mainly bar staff having a bit of fun.
Trying to keep their interest up.
Yeah, so, we do have quieter nights and we just sort of have a bit of a play around, and it keeps the bar staff interested and involved in what's going on.
Invested, yeah. And sometimes it might be me. I go, oh, wow, look at this product I've found because I do all the ordering and stocking and stuff. And go, come on, we've got to be able to make something good with this. It's a great
So you just order a few different spirits and have your bar staff just do what they want with them? Yeah,
pretty much, yeah.
We operate a very, very tight stock control system and have done since 96, 95. So it's the same. We weigh spirits and everything. And it's not about stuff going missing. It's about consistency in people. So we can tell, oh, hey, who's ringing that product? I know it's the same name, but you've got it wrong, et cetera, et cetera. So we have a weekly stock take, which Tess does, and a monthly one, and variance report. So we use our stock system a lot, as into its maximum pretty much as far as that side of control goes.
Very cool. You guys are pretty well ingrained in the Dunedin community. Do you guys think that it would be Carousel Bar would be as popular in Sydney, Australia, or London, England, New York,
Toronto.
Toronto? Yeah,
It's not really a franchise, and it would completely change because you're in a different culture, different staff. I mean, you'd probably, if we were running it, we'd probably try and make it. If you're in hospitality, you've got to be hospitable. People have got to have a good time. Your staff have got to have a good time, and they're the things that might translate. Maybe our music taste, depending where we were.
Mm.
But that would also, you've got to have enough people that are into the same thing. What do you think, Tess?
I'm not sure. I'm pretty sure that Carousel would work.
We'd be completely
most
different
places,
other
but yeah.
places because we could be more selective and bigger in a bigger population base.
Yeah, being in a bigger population and maybe not having the capacity restrictions that we do have would be great. But yeah, I'm not sure.
how many people? What's the population in New Zealand total? Like a couple million?
Under 5 million.
Yeah.
Okay.
We're 127,000 here, so it's small.
Is that just the city area, or is that including all the
There's
suburbs
another-
as well?
It includes Mosgiel, which is a place over the hill.
That's the wider
It's the wider
Dunedin area.
Yeah, they have a what do they call it?
We can lose 20,000 people when the students go home, though. So, I mean, our population is probably up around 120, 130 when the students are here, probably down to about 110 when they're not.
Yeah.
That's very interesting. Yeah, and for a relatively small population, you guys seem to do pretty well in sports. I mean, rugby, and you guys also perform well at Olympic Games. At least I've seen multiple athletes from New Zealand, so it's pretty positive mindset you guys got going there.
Yeah, I mean, I think most of the sports is interesting because over the years, they've become, it's whittled down as to involvement. Now when kids are at school, they do sort of lots of things and they do team stuff, but it's no longer like it used to be, which was, rugby, cricket. Some people play tennis or squash or whatever. A lot of those sports are struggling now. Although there's been a big uptake in golf, apparently, since COVID.
That's funny that you mentioned that. A lot of my friends actually during the summer, I don't know if they missed a day the whole summer
of golf.
Yeah, they love it. I was trying to get out there, but I ended up not making it. But next summer, I'm hoping to hit the range with them a few times.
Maybe it's that we had sort of rules around exercising, wasn't there?
Mm.
So maybe they've figured out that that's my exercise, and there were like limits as to how far you could go from home, supposedly, and that sort of thing. But there's been I saw it on television the other day that there's a big uptake in golf, which is great for that sector.
And do you guys have a lot of golf courses around your area?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Is there a reason why there's a decline in sports like squash and cricket, rugby?
Because I think there's different emphasis at school level. And probably depends on the sport.
Mm.
I think with rugby,
rugby's always going to be big here.
Yeah, it is, but it's also changed with the Polynesian population or whatever. If there's a big boys out there that you're not going to necessarily want to
take on.
I think I'm playing that sport out there. So it's changed a lot. I suppose it's very competitive. I mean, you've got, even at the high school level, there are people that would stay or that bring in specifically to boost their first 15. But it's still a big thing here as far as rugby. Like if we have a covered stadium here, and which is good for considering our climate. And if we have a All Blacks, which is our national rugby team, playing here, it's big for town. It's huge. It's big for our business. It's big for everyone in hospo and com and supermarkets, and everything flows on.
Absolutely, yeah. I mean, it's just one of those things that drives revenue in cities, having just major sports all the time that's readily available.
Yeah, so but we haven't had anything this year because of COVID.
Right. So while you were opening the bar, what's one thing that you wish you would have known then that you know now?
Do you mean when I opened it?
Yes.
Oh, I suppose there's nothing particularly from then that I wish I'd known now. I wish I'd known that they were going to enforce my fire capacity as hard as they did. But other than that, I don't really. I'd already been in the industry for some time, but certainly things are harder. Things have got harder and harder and harder. Much more cost, compliance and costs on businesses. A lot of my rent itself hasn't been a major issue, but it's the other costs that you go out to the landlord, etc. So the thing you want to, I think that a lot of people, what you've got to get used to is it ain't your money. Don't touch it. Leave it in the bank. Don't touch the money, because by the time you've paid your GST and all these other bills, there's not going to be that much left, and your income tax. So you've got to be very conservative on money. And it's also, it can be very difficult if you're in a partnership situation with another business partner. If you have different goals, when people ask me anything about that sort of thing, I say, well, plan to break up right at the beginning. Set your rules out between the two of you, so that when things go wrong, here's the formula as to what the other person's going to get when they decide to leave, and it's something that you can stick to, and that way that it takes a lot of that pressure away.
And kind of going off of that, one thing that we've been told a lot in the podcast is actually owning the bricks that for your business or your bar. Owning it is like a big part in being successful, instead of having to pay that rent every month or every whatever it is.
Owning the building.
Yes.
Totally, that's true. But it just comes down to your resources, really. Mm-hmm. You can protect yourself with long leases and renew. Like we've got to put a fire escape in shortly, and I'll redo my lease at that point. Initially, my lease was 6 times 5-year periods. So it was a long lease. But if you've got a difficult landlord, or your landlord sells and you get a more difficult landlord, then yes. But you have to be in a position to own that.
In New Zealand, is the real estate pretty limited in terms of what's available on the market at all times?
No, not really, but you've got certain people that are, there's your property boys that are around, and there's a set of them. But no, it's pretty open. At the moment, we've got there's huge demand with all these, with the way immigration was prior, and now with all these returning people, domestic property is going crazy and is continuing to go so. And there's a huge issue where it's becoming unaffordable for first-time
home buyers.
Yeah.
Yeah, here right now, a lot of real estate's going on and off the market within like 1 to 2 weeks.
Yeah, same
somebody
here.
puts the house up and it's sold right away.
Exactly the same thing here.
Yeah, it's crazy. My sister's actually a real estate agent, and she's like, by the time she shows 2 people the house, somebody already has it sold.
You've probably got to go in and go 10% above what they thought they might get it at a good price.
Yep, exactly.
You've got to take it off the market. You've got to, there's just so many people that you're going to be competing with.
And that's kind of been the issue. She had like 6 offers on one house, and somebody else still won it because there's just been so many people looking to buy houses, especially because a lot of people here at least are kind of moving out of the city more into the suburbs. So those suburb houses are selling instantly.
Mm.
Yeah, true. See, here the city's not really very big, and we can travel 20 minutes in any of a few directions and be in really amazing places. So people coming from bigger cities would go, oh, wow, that's nothing to commute. But once they've lived here a while, they go, oh, that's a bit far.
Yeah, 20 minutes. Shoot, that's a pretty easy drive, in my opinion, at least.
Yeah, we live a block away.
And is it true that, I know this is like a random fact, but I've heard New Zealand has like almost 2 cars per person, like one of the highest in the world. Is there any specific reason for that?
Yeah, there was. I suppose that was historical through people having space in that, but increasingly, with sections being split up and subdivided, then that's becoming something of the past, as people just won't be able to afford to have the storage,
Right.
and the price of car parks and things like that. So I think that it was something that was probably more the case, and maybe it is compared to some places, because we've got a lot of rural areas and a lot of people lifestyle blocks.
And really bad public transport.
Yeah, true.
All right, that was a fun fact, Joey. But here's another fun fact I heard. Don't know if this is true, but there's 3 times as many sheep as to people ratio in New Zealand.
Wow.
It's probably still true.
There used to be a lot more. There used to be a lot more. And there's a lot of interesting things going on in farming, a lot of diversification. A lot of really interesting things that people are doing, or mixed cropping, or like hemp and all sorts of stuff.
The dairy industry's taken off now too, which is...
There has, but there's a lot of pressure on that industry with
climate change.
Well, that and the polluting things, so they've got to do it very, very responsibly and design their farms around areas that will suck up nitrogen or whatever, and clean it up and filter it, and so it's
farming industry. Farming sector is huge in New Zealand, though. Yes.
Yeah, it is.
It's probably, I've heard it's helpful that you guys are a day ahead of everybody else, so stuff happens there first. So going back a little bit to your guys' bar, do you guys have a hangover recipe? And if so, what is it?
Don't go to bed.
Party all night long.
Yeah, just wear it off.
That's right, and then you won't have a hangover.
Is brunch common there? Because a lot of people here the next day will go, in the morning and have a breakfast sandwich and a Bloody Mary or something along those lines.
Yeah, that's still common.
It is common here, but not really in Dunedin as far as people. There was that place in Arrowtown near Queenstown we went to. They were big on Bloody Marys as definitely the day after thing. That was called the Chop Shop. It is still there. It's cool. But no.
What would you say is the most popular alcohol in terms of people purchasing it?
Gin and tonic. At Carousel, definitely.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah, we used to be vodka. Gins, had a resurgence over the years. We'd probably, with purchasing. I mean, I do that, and vanilla vodka, just because of our espresso martinis.
Do you guys have a Bombay on your shelf?
Yes.
At Carousel?
Yes, we do.
Okay. That's one of
very judgy if you ordered that.
Really? What a lot of the people I know here, that's like their go-to. What is like a better alternative?
Tanqueray,
yeah. As far as it depends on the style of gin as well. We have a lot of, as I say, ones that you probably wouldn't know about, but we have a lot of specialised gins. But I think we pour, was it Beefeater?
Yeah, our house gin is Beefeater.
Yep.
That's decently common here as well.
Yeah, I was gonna say, really, I mean, there's really not that many places here that like specialize in gin. They usually just have like Beefeater or
Bombay, and one bottom shelf, and then those two, and then maybe one like.
No, we'd have. I don't know. Would we have
30?
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah.
Wow.
That's why when you first said that gin was very popular, that caught me off guard a little bit, just because usually that is not the case. I mean, from establishments I've been to.
It's
gin's made a huge resurgence over here.
It won't just be New Zealand. It'll be all around. But your market's a very different market.
Well, you guys are ahead of the times.
Exactly.
I only buy a few hours though, unfortunately.
And what are both your personal favorite drink?
I drink gin and soda. That's pretty much my go-to.
Yeah, I sort of change around. I'm really not racist in that respect. I'll drink anything, but I like wine as well, Pinot Noir, Pinot Gris even. But I drink the odd cocktail, the odd beer, and spirits, and but I don't drink a whole lot.
All right, very cool.
I don't
What
really
would you
drink
say?
much bourbon unless it was in a cocktail.
What would you say is your favorite hometown restaurant?
There's a woman, Katrina Tuvey. She's got two places that we really like. Number 7 Belmac, which is in a suburb called Balmacewen, sort of. And she's got another one called the Esplanade, which is right at the beach in St. Clair. And that's Italian style. And she has Italian people she brought out to chef and help run and that sort of thing. And she's a very good owner operator. And both her places would be in our favourites.
Yeah.
And they're, we're not really super close with them, but we have a lot of respect for them.
Frequent there quite regularly.
We do, yeah. Other than that,
we have a little French. Would we call it a French bistro? Just down, two chefs.
Oh, two chefs, definitely.
There's
they're just a few
couple of doors down.
A few
from
doors
us.
down the road. Bacchus, which is just a couple of doors up the road.
Do they have beignets there?
Do they have what?
Beignets.
What's that?
It's so when I was in New Orleans, I went to like a French cafe, and it's like pretty popular there. It's just it's I guess comparable to like a funnel cake, but like kind of in a ball, and they're like you get them in like a bag of powdered sugar. They're solid, but a lot of people like stand by them. So I was just kind of wondering if it was like the same.
No, I've never heard of them.
No, they have a guillotine. No,
they don't.
No, they don't. No, it's probably they just keep it pretty simple. We don't have a lot of, well, certainly not at the moment, but we're not really very touristy, not compared to
other places
and around the world. That we don't have a lot of tourists. We think we do because it's grown a lot, but we don't. So it's not very showy in that respect.
No.
So when you guys aren't at the bar, what are some hobbies or what are some things you like to do?
Go to the bar. We go driving sometimes around the place, but what are you saying?
JD likes to work on old French cars. He's got about
whatever.
10 old French cars.
Not to support the myth that you've heard. Yeah, that's a hobby. I do that a bit.
Apart from
do you fix them up and sell them, or do you fix them up and keep them?
I should be. I've got to look at what I've got and make some decisions.
We'll be keeping them.
So I'll sell them, and then I'll buy something else. With the ones I'm doing, they're just not worth enough money in this country to justify sometimes fixing them up. So I'll just fix one or two, and I used to do it for a job, and so I know my way around them. I've got a workshop relatively close to where I live, etc., that I've moved to recently, which was a lot of work. So it's time to sort that wee hobby out. But what else do we do?
Oh, we hang out with our friends.
Yeah,
just basic,
some gigs sometimes.
Yeah, we do spend a lot of time at the bar when we're not working there.
Yeah, for sure. Is it hard to get parts? Is it hard to get parts for the cars?
No, very easy now because of like when I used to work on them, you didn't have the internet. So especially with older specialized stuff, it's a lot easier now, and reproduction stuff. You just have you just get used to ordering everything off eBay or specialized sites, or with me out of even France and Germany if I really had to, but there's not a whole lot of stuff I need, and a lot of it you can fix locally. Like if you're doing brakes or something, you just send them away to be re-sleeved and redone in somewhere close to you, and they will come back done because it's just re-sleeving, putting seals, and it's not something you have to buy new ones off.
Yeah, that makes sense. You guys are both relatively well traveled. I mean, compared to Joey and I.
I'm not.
What would you guys say is your favorite place that you've been to?
Amsterdam.
Yeah, I don't know. I found them quite rude.
Well, the Dutch people?
Well, just people in general overseas. Because anywhere that's touristy, they'd probably just get sick of tourists.
Yeah.
Yeah, I can't comment because I haven't traveled very far.
We've traveled a lot. I've been to about half of the states here in the United States, but I haven't traveled much, like outside of the United States and Canada.
Mm-hmm.
People here generally travel a lot, as in they'll go and do the university, and then they do what they call an OE, overseas experience, and a lot of them will end up in London or whatever, but they generally do travel a lot, and also we're exposed to a lot of the rest of the world, especially the Western world. So we know a lot about American culture and what goes on there. We know a lot about English stuff, some European, but yeah. So we're pretty.
I think because we're so
exposed,
small.
Because we're so small, yeah. We're
people like to get out and see the rest of the world.
I was actually looking at like some flights to New Zealand, and they can get pretty taxing to go there. And then some of the flights were like 3 days long. I was like, wow.
I know, it's crazy.
Yeah, it's not pleasant. You can't come anyway. You have to have a voucher now.
Yeah. I even like, before Corona or after, I was just like kind of looking into it, and I was like, that might be a reason. Like, if you're probably going out of the country, you're going to be going on like a few week vacation, right? Because it's so expensive, and it's just worth it probably to see a lot of places.
Totally, unless it's Australia or maybe Asia.
Can you guys take a boat to Australia, or do you generally fly there as well?
There's a bridge, and you walk bridge.
Nah, you just fly.
It's cheaper to go to Australia often than it is, like, because we're in a provincial city, it's expensive for us to go to, say, Auckland, whereas we could go direct from here to Australia, often cheaper.
Yeah, well, it used to be, yeah.
Used to be, because they'd probably subsidise,
That would be one hell of a bridge. I'm thinking about that now.
How else do you get the sheep across?
Oh, that's awesome. So what would you guys say is the most thrill-seeking thing you've ever done?
I've never done anything thrill-seeking.
I did bungee once, but that was terrifying, and I'd never do it again or recommend it to anyone.
Why was it terrifying?
Yeah, terrifying.
Why
because the guy who was sort of holding me there, and the safety dude, and I was freaking out, and he counted me down from 5, and he was like 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and I jumped, and then he said, "Oh, hold on a second," as a joke. So all the way down, I was just screaming, thinking, "This is it, I'm gone." Which is apparently a funny joke, but it wasn't very funny for me.
No, that's not funny. No way.
Oh,
no. My God, that'd be terrifying.
Yeah.
It was the opposite for me. I actually went skydiving, and the guy's like 5, 4, jump, and I was like, "Oh, okay."
Not quite ready.
It's probably better that way.
Yeah, it was definitely better because I was a little nervous. So.
Imagine if you jumped and he said, "Hold on."
Yeah, I know. I would not be okay.
New Zealand's home to many of the film scenes from popular movies. I don't know. Have you guys seen any of that from like Lord of the Rings or Avatar or anything?
I've seen the movies, but no. I'd love to go to Hobbiton, but no, I haven't seen any of the places that they were filmed.
We're aware that some of it was in Central Otago as well, but we're very aware of the impact that has on our for the rest of the world to see us, and for us to be showcased, and for the tourism market. So there is a very big, and there's even stuff going on at the moment in Auckland where people have been relocating out here in the film industry just to be able to do normal filming and stuff.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
But it's what people see of New Zealand around the world, I guess.
Have you guys seen the Lord of the Rings movies?
Yeah, I've watched all of them, but that was probably like 10 years ago.
Yeah.
So I don't. It's hard to recall.
Yeah.
But I mean, they were great movies. I mean, all the scenery was beautiful, and I mean, just good movies all around.
You have a huge amount of varying scenery, often in quite short distances here.
And that's probably one of the reasons why people like filming there, right? There's probably some open, like as I mentioned before, there's a lot of parks, and I'm sure there's a lot of forests and whatnot that help make, and then there's the cities as well, and it just
Yeah.
little bit of everything in such a close area.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, Oamaru, which is an hour and a half from here, is a whole Victorian area that looks like a film set.
Okay.
Yeah, that gets used a bit.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
That's awesome. Well, I learned a lot about New Zealand today.
I know it was. So this is kind of a random one, but do you guys have any interesting ghost stories that are from Carousel?
No.
It used to be a bank, and where the bar is used to be the manager's flat. And then later it became offices. And then it was, when I bought it, it was a functioning Chinese restaurant that was probably past its best by. But no, no, I don't have any sort of. I think you're either sensitive to it or you're not.
I don't
Some
have
individuals attracted, maybe, I don't know. But
yeah, we kind of get that. Some people are like, "Oh, our bar's been open since 1880 and have like 100." Then some are like, "Our bar's been open since 1880 and ghosts aren't real."
maybe we should make something up.
Yeah.
Let's get trade ghost tours, ghost
that'd be
shots, I don't know. But no, we don't.
Yeah. Oh, okay. I thought you were gonna say maybe there's like a bank robbery gone wrong, and then there's a Chinese spirit.
Hey, that would be a good story though, John.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, I don't really have any more questions, but you guys are free to ask us anything you'd like.
Have you guys worked in the hospitality industry?
I haven't directly. Most of my knowledge is just from the 35 podcasts we've done, and then both my sisters, they both are bartenders at a pretty big bar in downtown Cleveland.
Yep.
Their population is about 500,000 or so, 700,000. And they've told me a lot of stories. So that's about the extent of my knowledge. And I've gone to you could say a fair amount of bars in my lifetime.
So you clearly messaged us by mistake. So were you trying to find the carousel in
New Orleans?
New Orleans.
No. Never.
We get a lot of that. We get a lot of people messaging us on Instagram, thinking that we are the carousel from New Orleans.
I actually looked at both of them. Frankie does a lot of the outreach. We each have, kind of our own specific roles, and his is outreach. And I looked at both of them, and I was like, "There's a carousel in the middle of this bar." He's like, "No, wrong one."
Exactly.
It's quite funny though, because it's actually a working carousel as well. Like it actually goes round and round, quite out of.
Yeah.
It looked pretty awesome, but the scenery of your guys' was beautiful, and I like the rooftop lounge as well. That was very unique.
Yeah, it's cool. It's the biggest draw card to our bar, really.
Yeah, it's also they're trying to sort of like come down on. I mean, smoking and stuff like that. I mean, it is a smoking area, but they're trying to. A lot of the smoking areas are council controlled, like footpath, and so they don't really have a lot of
jurisdiction
over ours because it complies as far as being open enough. But having said that, we don't sell cigarettes anymore because the demand's gone down so much. We just don't bother. They're low.
So are you guys able to smoke cigarettes and possibly like other things on your rooftop lounge?
Just cigarettes and cigars, you mean?
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, cigarettes. That's what I was talking about, cigarettes and cigars.
Yeah, you are.
Well, they can smoke out there, yeah.
Okay. Yeah, here it's pretty much most areas you're not allowed to smoke anything, even if there is a rooftop area.
Yeah, never.
I'm assuming that's what
people still do though.
happen here too. To be fair,
it will eventually.
Yeah, is marijuana legal there?
No, they just had a referendum on it, and it lost by like 52 to 48%. They had a referendum that came out last week, so a lot of people were a bit disappointed at that, and it wasn't a binding referendum though. It was more of a gauge on the public, but I think they'll drop it now. There's the medical marijuana thing as well, and I think a lot of people were gearing up a lot of companies were gearing up for it to become
Legal.
legalized. So it'll be interesting to see what happens in the next 3 years of the new government. So we've just had a new government voted back in. So
It seems like it's kind of like a, worldwide thing where it's becoming legal pretty much. I don't want to say everywhere, but a lot of countries are moving towards legalizing it, at least medically.
Yeah, totally.
Totally. And even non because of the way how much of police time it ties up. And the fact that it's still there anyway, and it's just in gang control as opposed to government control.
Yeah. What is the age for smoking in New Zealand?
18.
Okay, everything's 18.
Yeah.
Good to know. You guys will get a kick out of this. We just had our elections, and there's also voting on your local government and stuff. So in Portland, they actually made it legal where you can have any drug, and I mean like any drug, and it's decriminalized. So you can't go to jail for having crack.
Small amounts. So
small
it's like
amounts. You can't be like distributing it, but like you could literally have like heroin, cocaine, whatever, and it's absurd to me.
We did see that in the news. And it's basically become making it a health issue. And you've got to remember that the history of the states and using drug laws to control parts of the population and incarcerate them for very long periods of time is,
rough.
Yeah. So
the only other place I can think of where most stuff is legal is Amsterdam, right?
Yeah.
Also like Portugal, a lot of European countries have become.
Isn't marijuana legal in parts of Canada now as well?
All of Canada, I believe.
Canada,
yeah.
United States like 50-50, but I'm assuming in these next 4 years it'll be, if not the next 4 years, the next 8, it's going to almost 100% be everywhere.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, I mean, clearly Trump's been taking something. and still doesn't realize.
I think Trump and Biden are both they're both on something.
Yeah, well, Biden needs to be on something. Just the way he romped in there, he's just just had a jab or something to keep him going.
So on your guys' local news, do you see like our presidential election?
Absolutely,
huge.
Everything.
It's huge over here.
Yeah,
really.
Yeah.
Okay.
Most of our major TV networks were pretty much dedicated to days of the US elections.
We were extremely aware of everything.
Huh.
Wow.
Is it more of like a sitcom or?
Well, in this instance, you could be hard to argue otherwise, and it keeps giving.
It's a gift that keeps on giving for you guys.
For us,
oh yeah.
We enjoy a lot of the Facebook content we see from both sides.
It's so funny.
It's I could only imagine what other countries think of
the
it.
exact same ones.
Yeah.
They are the same ones.
Mm-hmm.
No, that's awesome. But yeah, I mean, I guess officially the election's over. I say like officially with air quotes because it's gonna get contested or something's gonna happen. Like it's 2020, right? I mean, something crazy is gonna happen.
Yeah, totally.
It's but he sort of missed his moment. If he was going to get people to rise up against everything, it's
But late
the dish has gone a bit cold now, and even with his way that he's saying, is scammed, for those votes or whatever. Even if you took them out, he still lost.
Yeah, even best case scenario, when he wins like the last 3 states and one flips, he's still behind by like 10. So it's he almost has no argument.
It's literally impossible mathematically.
Yeah,
exactly. But I mean, someone needs to,
Need to go and physically remove him
from
the White House.
Remove him.
They'll make great TV.
I don't know if he's going to be going peacefully out of the White House.
Exactly.
No. We can only
just change the locks when he's out golfing.
All right, well, I'm going to end the podcast here, but it's been a pleasure having you guys on.
Yeah,
Thank you
thanks
so
for having
much.
us.
All right, After Hours Nation, we hope you enjoyed today's episode. If you'd like to stay updated, you can check out our site at afterhourscast.com. Don't forget to tune in next Tuesday morning for our next episode. After Hours Nation, stay thirsty, my friends.